Mr. John, 65 years old, lives in a quiet town in Ohio. After retiring from his job as a sales clerk at a building supply store, he found himself with more free time. Along with that, however, came many questions. His energy was not what it used to be. His sleep became restless, his mood shifted more easily, and at times, he felt as if he was slowly becoming disconnected from his own body. During a wellness meeting at the local senior community center, Mr. John shared, "I used to feel strong and full of life. Now there are moments when I wonder if my body is just slowly shutting down." The truth is, this feeling is far from uncommon. Many older men across the United States are experiencing the same thing. And there is one subject that often remains unspoken. Even though it deeply affects physical health, emotional balance, and mental clarity, that subject is masturbation. For many men over 60, especially those raised in strict or conservative environments, masturbation is often tied to feelings of shame or considered inappropriate. Sometimes it is seen as something only for the young, no longer fitting for someone of a certain age. But the truth is, when approached mindfully and in a healthy way, masturbation can be an important tool for maintaining wellness, staying in touch with one's body, and rediscovering a sense of vitality. This article will explore 7 essential insights that every older man should know about masturbation. These lessons are inspired by Dr. Mohit Khera, a respected urologist and professor at Baylor College of Medicine. With over 3 decades of experience in men's health, Dr. Khera has seen many men regain their sense of aliveness and confidence simply by shifting how they view and engage with their own bodies. Yet this article is not only about medicine or biology. It is about you, your daily life, your sense of comfort, and the relationship you have with yourself. That is why this piece will not focus on clinical terms or cold statistics. Instead, it blends clear scientific knowledge with real-life stories from older men across America, from sunny Florida to the green parks of Oregon, along with practical suggestions that you can try at home or in a quiet moment at your local community center. We will look at why unconscious habits around masturbation, like rushing or relying on adult content, can dull your body's natural sensitivity. And you will also discover how small changes, such as slow and mindful touch, can improve your sleep, enhance erection quality, and reduce prostate inflammation. Each part of this article will focus on a common issue that older men in America face. Offer an easy-to-understand explanation, share a true story from someone's life, and finally suggest a gentle practice that you can try, whether it is at home in your bedroom or after an afternoon walk. Most importantly, this is not a journey about going back to how things were. It is about beginning a new relationship with yourself, one that honors your age, your body, and your lived experience. So if you have ever wondered whether masturbation still matters after 60, 70, or even 80 years old, please remember this: you are not too old, you are not alone, and it is never too late to reconnect with yourself. Let us begin. Insight 1. Unconscious masturbation can numb emotions and lead to erectile dysfunction. Mr. Mike, 63 years old, lives in a quiet suburban area of Texas. Most evenings, he would sit in front of his familiar television, flipping through channels, ending his night with a habit that had followed him for years: masturbating quickly and without much thought. It was a routine that began during his stressful working years, and it carried over into retirement. He had always thought of it as harmless, just a way to unwind. But over time, he began to notice something. His body was not responding the same way. The feelings were no longer as full. Erections became harder to achieve, and most troubling of all, he felt a growing disconnection from himself and from the woman who had stood by his side for more than 30 years. Mr. Mike's experience is not uncommon. Across America, millions of older men are facing similar changes without understanding the true cause. Many assume it is just part of aging, but in reality, a major part of the problem comes from how we practice masturbation, especially when it is done without awareness, rushed, or overly dependent on explicit content. When we masturbate in a mechanical, thoughtless way, disconnected from the real sensations of our body, the brain gradually adapts to fast, intense, and often unrealistic stimulation. Scientists call this process neural conditioning. The dopamine system, a chemical messenger in the brain that creates feelings of pleasure, gets overstimulated in short bursts. Over time, the brain begins to require stronger and more extreme triggers just to feel the same level of excitement. This can lead to emotional numbness, decreased sensitivity, and erectile dysfunction. Eventually, the body may stop responding to gentle or intimate touch, whether it comes from yourself or from a partner. Many older men in America have quietly admitted feeling disappointed, even ashamed when they can no longer climax like they used to. Even though their desire is still present, Some withdraw emotionally, avoid physical intimacy, and carry their worries alone. But the truth is this: the desire itself is not the problem. It is the way we have been engaging with our bodies that is misaligned. The good news is that the human body, even in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, is capable of healing if given the right approach. The first step is to slow down. Rather than rushing toward orgasm, begin by feeling each movement, each sensation on your skin, each breath. Let masturbation become an act of self-care, not a secretive or thoughtless habit. One simple but powerful practice is called mindful touch. You can try this for just 10 minutes a day, in a quiet space where you feel safe and undisturbed, perhaps after a gentle evening walk or following dinner. Simply lie down or sit comfortably, place your hands on your body, and touch yourself slowly and gently, as if meeting yourself again for the first time. There is no need to aim for climax. The goal here is to rebuild connection and learn to listen once more to your body's natural signals, something many of us lose after decades of living in a fast-paced, high-pressure world. This shift can not only improve sensitivity and erectile function, but also increase your confidence. When you begin to feel truly in tune with your body again, it becomes easier to express, to communicate, and to be emotionally present with your partner. A hug, a glance, or an honest conversation, all of these become richer when you feel connected within. After being introduced to a men's health support group in his community by a friend, Mr. Mike decided to make a change. He reduced his evening screen time, started taking quiet walks, and began practicing mindful touch in the privacy of his bedroom. Within a few weeks, he began to notice a shift not only physically but emotionally. "It feels like I've come back to life," he said. "I don't feel like a lost old man anymore. I feel like I still matter." Masturbation, when approached with respect and understanding, can become a bridge, a gentle path that brings you back to yourself and to the partner who has walked life's journey beside you, and that at any age is a deeply valuable gift. Insight 2. Masturbation can help reduce prostate congestion and inflammation, a form of self-care no one talks about. At age 68, Mr. Tom lives in a senior community in Florida, where he often joins morning Tai Chi sessions and enjoys lighthearted chats at the local wellness club. But for years, he had been quietly bothered by one persistent issue: waking up multiple times during the night with an urgent need to urinate. It was not life-threatening, but it disrupted his sleep, left him fatigued, and gradually took away the comfort he once enjoyed in daily life. During a free health consultation hosted by the community center, Mr. Tom spoke with a urologist and received a piece of advice he never expected to hear: maintain regular ejaculation even through masturbation. At first, Mr. Tom felt unsure. At his age, many assume that sexual activity retires right along with their career. There was also a sense of awkwardness, especially for his generation, where talking about masturbation was often frowned upon. But eventually, he decided to give the suggestion a try, and the results surprised him. Masturbation, when done correctly and regularly, can truly help the prostate function better. In the male body, the prostate is responsible for producing fluid that helps transport sperm when ejaculation is absent for extended periods. This fluid can build up, leading to congestion, mild inflammation, or irritation. This is one of the common causes of nighttime urination burning sensation, or discomfort in the lower abdomen that many older men quietly endure. A study from Harvard University found that men who ejaculated around 21 times a month had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who ejaculated just a few times per month. This does not mean everyone needs to hit that exact number, but it clearly shows that maintaining regular ejaculation, whether with a partner or through self-care, is an essential part of protecting prostate health. Mr. Tom began setting aside time 2 or 3 times a week for mindful masturbation. He did not rush, nor did he aim for orgasm as quickly as possible. Instead, he treated it as part of his wellness routine, just like eating healthfully or exercising regularly. He also made changes to his daily diet, adding prostate-friendly foods such as walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and salmon, easy staples he found at the neighborhood grocery store. After about a month, he noticed he was waking up less during the night. The lower abdominal discomfort had eased significantly. More importantly, his overall mood improved. "I feel like I'm taking care of my body in a complete way," he said. "I no longer feel like I'm just surrendering to aging." The truth is, many older men mistakenly believe that losing desire or sexual activity is normal and not worth paying attention to. But in reality, when the body is no longer active, vital organs, including the prostate, can weaken. Regular ejaculation helps maintain fluid circulation, prevents congestion, supports urinary function, and reduces the risk of inflammation. What matters most is how we approach this. Masturbation should not be a rushed or shame-filled act done in secrecy. It should be seen as a natural and important part of healthy aging. Just like Tai Chi, eating balanced meals or getting good sleep. In fact, you might find that self-care through masturbation feels most effective after a long walk or a relaxing yoga class at the community center, where you have already nurtured your body with care. For Mr. Tom, this experience helped him realize that sexual wellness after 60 is not just something you should do. It is something you deserve to do with respect for your body and for the years still ahead. Through something as simple as conscious masturbation, he found a renewed sense of vitality, peace of mind, and fullness of life he once thought was lost. Insight 3. Shame around masturbation. The silent burden that weakens emotional health. Mr. Henry, 72, lives in a small, sunlit house near the coast of California. After his wife passed away a few years ago, he gradually withdrew into himself. He still went to the market and strolled through the park in the mornings, but he spoke to others less and less. At night, he often lay awake for hours thinking about old memories, unsaid words, and at times feelings he could not bring himself to express, like sorrow, loneliness, and even the desire to touch his own body. For many older men like Mr. Henry, masturbation is a difficult subject to discuss. His generation grew up in an era where sexual behavior, especially outside the bounds of marriage, was considered taboo. Masturbation, even though it is a completely natural human response, was often labeled as dirty, childish, or shameful. That sense of guilt, although outdated, quietly followed many men into their later years. What few people talk about is how deeply that guilt and shame can affect a man's emotional well-being. When a person believes that their most basic needs are somehow wrong, they may begin to internalize, blame, isolate themselves, and carry prolonged emotional stress. Over time, this does more than just dampen mood. It can interrupt sleep, reduce concentration, and in more serious cases, lead to depression. Scientific studies have shown that when practiced with a positive mindset, masturbation can help the body regulate hormones naturally. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, while increasing dopamine and oxytocin, which are chemicals that promote a sense of comfort, connection, and emotional safety. This is why many people feel relaxed and even sleep better after masturbation. It is not shameful. It is part of a natural physiological rhythm, much like eating when hungry or sleeping when tired. After a long period of isolation, Mr. Henry's daughter encouraged him to join a senior group at the local library. There he started meeting others his age and sharing small parts of his daily life. During one wellness talk about living fully after 70, a guest speaker spoke openly about the importance of self-care, including the act of touching one's body with respect. That talk stayed with Mr. Henry. For the first time in years, he felt like he had permission to exhale. Permission to be himself without judgment. From that day on, he began to shift his perspective. He no longer saw masturbation as something shameful or to be hidden. Instead, he saw it as a form of self-care, no different from his mindful breathing exercises, his healthy eating habits, or his morning time in the sun. He learned to approach masturbation with mindfulness, beginning with a few minutes of quiet, sensing his breath, placing his hands gently on his body like an act of kindness. He often reminded himself, "This body has carried me through so many years. It deserves tenderness." Over time, Mr. Henry began to sleep better. He laughed more during his book club meetings, and when asked what had changed, he simply smiled and said, "I've learned to treat myself like an old friend, with compassion, gentleness, and without judgment." For many older American men, the first step toward emotional healing is not action, but acceptance. Acceptance that they still have needs. Acceptance that their body is still alive and capable. And most importantly, acceptance that caring for oneself is not wrong. It is a mark of emotional maturity. In today's world where everyone talks about self-love, we often forget that older men need to be taught that too, in ways that are gentle, respectful, and free of judgment. Mindful masturbation is not just a physical act. It is a quiet affirmation: I care about myself. And sometimes that single affirmation is enough to soothe a soul that has carried too much silence for too long. Insight 4. Masturbation helps boost testosterone, rekindling energy and masculine strength after 60. Mr. Frank, 73, lives in a small town in Oregon. In his younger days, he was a strong, active man who loved hiking and tending to his vegetable garden behind the house. But over the past few years, he began to feel tired more easily. He no longer felt excited about the activities that once brought him joy. He gained weight, gradually struggled with shallow sleep, and at times felt weighed down by a heavy mood he could not quite explain. He assumed it was just aging time doing its inevitable work. During a routine checkup at the community health clinic, his doctor told him something that caught him off guard. His testosterone levels were lower than average. The doctor explained that this could be behind many of the symptoms he was experiencing. When Mr. Frank asked what he could do about it, the doctor smiled kindly and seriously and said, "One of the simplest things you can do is to keep your sexual activity going, including masturbation." Mr. Frank laughed awkwardly. At his age, few people considered such things essential. Still, he was curious. Could it really make a difference for his health, both physical and emotional? In fact, research has shown that sexual activity, including masturbation, can stimulate the body's natural production of testosterone. Testosterone is not just the hormone tied to sexual desire. It also plays a crucial role in maintaining muscle mass, energy, bone density, and mood stability. When testosterone levels drop, which often happens after 60, men may feel more fatigued, sleep poorly, lose motivation, and face higher risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and depression. The encouraging news is that even in your 70s, the body can still respond. It can adjust and increase testosterone production when gently stimulated. One simple and effective way to do this is through mindful, regular masturbation. After that doctor's visit, Mr. Frank began to rethink his habits. Instead of viewing masturbation as something unnecessary, he approached it as a form of self-care. He stopped rushing through it as he had in the past. He took his time, used his imagination, rather than relying on images from the internet. Each time he combined it with deep breathing and light muscle relaxation, treating it like a quiet ritual in the midst of a noisy world. Alongside that, he resumed his morning walks around the nearby lake. Sometimes he visited the local senior gym for low-impact exercises. Nothing too intense, just a few movements to keep his joints flexible, improve circulation, and encourage hormone production. Within a month, he began to notice real changes. He slept more deeply. His body felt lighter. But what surprised him most was how his mood began to lift. He felt a new sense of energy moving through him. He did not need to feel 30 again, but it was enough to feel alive enough to look forward to each day. Many older men in America assume that if they are no longer sexually active with a partner, then they do not need sexual activity at all. But the truth is, masturbation, when done with intention, is not just a temporary release. It is a subtle form of movement that keeps the reproductive system working, supports the endocrine system, promotes cardiovascular health, and lifts the spirit. It is like a private workout just for men. No equipment, no gym required, but vitally important. The most important thing is not the frequency, but the quality of the connection. When a man takes the time to listen to his body, to respect his physical needs, and to approach them with care and dignity, the body responds. There is no need to rush or pressure oneself to feel young again. What matters is the quiet, steady awareness that one is still here, present, alive, and at home in one's own skin. For Mr. Frank, this shift was not only about hormones. It was a personal awakening. It was the moment he reconnected with a part of himself he had left behind, his own inner companion, forgotten for years due to embarrassment, insecurity, or the belief that aging meant the end of everything. Now, each morning, he wakes up with a gentle sense of something stirring inside, not loud or dramatic, but enough to make him smile and step outside, ready for the day. Insight 5. Erectile function. If you don't use it, you might lose it. When Mr. George, age 69, began living alone in Michigan after his wife passed away, intimacy was the last thing on his mind. The grief of losing his lifelong companion made him withdraw. He stopped caring about things that once brought him joy, including touching his own body. As time went on, he began to notice his body no longer responded as it used to. It wasn't just a lack of desire. More concerning, he found it increasingly difficult to achieve an erection, even when the mood was right. He assumed this was simply part of aging. But during a routine medical checkup, his doctor told him something that lingered in his thoughts. "George, the penis is like any other part of your body. If you stop using it, the body starts to forget it." That one sentence made George pause and reflect. Erectile function, like any biological system, relies on healthy blood flow, flexible tissue, and active neural connections. When this system is not regularly engaged, whether through sexual activity or masturbation, the tissues within the penis may begin to harden and lose elasticity. Blood flow diminishes, and the ability to achieve an erection weakens. This doesn't only affect one's intimate life. It can also serve as an early warning sign of vascular issues, including heart disease. Many urologists refer to this as the use it or lose it principle, a message that is simple yet profoundly important. If the sexual system is inactive for long periods, the body begins to deprioritize it. But on the other hand, gentle and regular stimulation can keep this system healthy, responsive, and functioning well. Here's what's crucial to understand. You don't need to climax every time to gain the benefits. Even achieving and maintaining an erection without ejaculation, such as through light self-stimulation, is enough to maintain tissue health, promote blood circulation, and preserve elasticity. After that appointment, George changed the way he approached his body. He did not pressure himself to feel young again. Instead, each evening after reading or watching a favorite program, he set aside time to sit quietly and touch his body with respect. There was no rush, no specific goal, just a moment of presence, a signal to his body. I still care, I'm still here. His doctor also recommended an exercise many older men overlook: the Kegel exercise, often associated with postpartum women. Kegels are actually incredibly beneficial for men, especially those wanting to preserve erectile function. Strong pelvic floor muscles help control blood flow, support firmer erections, and reduce the risk of incontinence. George began practicing Kegels every day while watching TV. No equipment needed, and no one around him could tell. He simply squeezed the same muscles you would use to stop urinating midstream, held for a few seconds, then relaxed. He did this 3 times a day, a few minutes at a time. After about 6 weeks, he began to feel a difference. The sense of disconnection started to fade. His body, it seemed, was beginning to respond again. More importantly, George began to feel like himself again, not a lonely old man, but a man with energy, agency, and presence in his own life and body. For many older men in America, maintaining erectile function is not about trying to recapture youth. It's about preserving overall health, both physical and emotional. Masturbation, when practiced consistently and respectfully, becomes an important part of that care routine. We cannot stop time, but we can choose how we live each day, with a sense of vitality, connection, and wholeness. And sometimes with one simple act. By not neglecting your own body, you're already saying more than words ever could. Insight 6: Pornography rewires the brain, and it affects your real life more than you think. Mr. Bill, age 70, lives alone in a small apartment in suburban Arizona. After his divorce and retirement, he spent most of his time at home reading books, tending to his plants, and occasionally browsing the internet for news. At first, visiting adult websites was just a way to soothe his loneliness, a small habit that helped him feel alive. But over time, he realized he was depending on it more than he wanted to admit. He still had natural desires, but it became harder to reach climax. When he tried to be intimate with an old friend during a reunion, his body did not respond. It was not a lack of feelings, but rather his body no longer reacted the way it used to. The experience left him confused, embarrassed, and more withdrawn. That was when he began to wonder, could it be because I've watched too much pornography? According to urologists and neuroscientists, the answer is very likely yes. Pornography, especially content that is fast-paced, intensely stimulating, and consumed over long periods, can reshape how the brain processes pleasure. This is particularly true for older men, who have already experienced hormonal, emotional, and social changes as they age. When you watch pornography, your brain releases large amounts of dopamine, the neurotransmitter that creates feelings of excitement. But with repeated overexposure, the brain begins to numb out to natural sources of stimulation. Just as eating too much candy dulls your taste for fresh fruit, excessive porn use makes your brain respond only to exaggerated artificial images, while slowly ignoring real emotions, real touch, and real people. This is what experts now call porn-induced erectile dysfunction, or PID. Many American men across different age groups silently experience this without even knowing it has a name. All they know is that they feel numb, disconnected, and slowly lose confidence, not just in intimacy, but in everyday life. The good news is that the brain can heal. The human brain's ability to rewire itself is nothing short of miraculous. Even at age 60, 70, or beyond, the key lies in shifting your habits with patience, intention, and self-compassion. After attending a health talk at the local community center, Mr. Bill decided to try a simple challenge: 30 days without pornography. At first, it was difficult, as if he had lost a familiar companion. But instead of filling his time with screens, he returned to his favorite books, joined the neighborhood book club, and most importantly, he began to explore mindful self-pleasure, relying on imagination and real sensations rather than outside images. By the second week, he noticed he was beginning to feel more. Light touches became more pleasant. His body responded more slowly but more clearly. By the fourth week, he was able to reach orgasm without any pornography. More importantly, he felt reconnected with himself. This does not mean all pornography is bad, but when it becomes a dominant habit, especially when it replaces real emotions and real closeness, it begins to drain the emotional and spiritual quality of one's life. And for older adults, it can become an invisible form of isolation, a cycle that pulls them further away from their own body and feelings. If you are reading this and something feels familiar, do not blame yourself. Consider it a good sign. It means you are beginning to listen to your body, your mind, and your desire to reconnect with yourself. You don't need to quit cold turkey if that feels too difficult. But you can begin by trying a few days without, then a week, then a month. Fill the space with reading, walking music, or calling an old friend. Then let your body show you the quiet miracle it is capable of. When you take a step back, offer it respect and allow it to return to a more natural, gentle, and authentic state. Insight 7. Isolation is the most dangerous mistake, touching yourself to reconnect with the world. Mr. Peter, 76, lives alone in a small apartment in Colorado after the passing of his wife. They had no children, and since her departure, the house had grown unusually quiet. He still kept up with chores, still went grocery shopping each week, but the evenings felt long and empty. He didn't know who to call. He didn't know who to talk to. Over time, he stopped reaching out, not because he didn't want to, but because the emptiness had drained him of interest in anything. Many older men like Mr. Peter don't realize how deeply isolation affects their health. But science has long confirmed this prolonged isolation doesn't just cause sadness. It's directly linked to depression, cognitive decline, high blood pressure, and heart disease. When people no longer experience touch, even the smallest forms like a hug or a hand on the shoulder, the nervous system loses its sense of safety. The body releases more cortisol, stress builds up. Sleep becomes disturbed and the life force slowly fades. For American men, especially those from older generations, isolation is often wrapped in silence. Many don't say they feel lonely, fearing it would make them appear weak. But that silence only deepens the loneliness. In moments like these, a simple act such as touching oneself with respect, not for pleasure but for connection, can become a bridge, a way to return to your body, to your emotions, and from there to reopen the door to others. Dr. Mohit Khera calls this the Golden Protocol, a small daily practice you can do at any age. Set aside 10 minutes each day to touch your body gently with no goal other than to feel. You don't need to be naked and you don't need to masturbate unless you want to. Just rest your hand on your shoulder, your chest, your belly, and simply feel that your body is still here, still alive, still worthy of love. Mr. Peter began practicing this after a talk at his community center. A retired yoga teacher, also in his 70s, shared his experience of learning to touch himself as a form of self-healing. At first, Mr. Peter felt awkward, but he gave it a try. Every night before bed, he played soft music, sat on his bed, placed his hand on his chest, and closed his eyes. Nothing more, just being present with himself. After about a week, he noticed something shifting. Not a dramatic change, but it was as if a small door within him had begun to open. He slept better. In the morning, he felt more willing to get out of bed. Then he decided to return to the community yoga class he had abandoned years earlier. At first, he sat in the back, not speaking to anyone. But little by little, a few nods, a few smiles. These simple exchanges began to make him feel like he was coming back to the world. The beauty is, he didn't need anyone to save him. Just by returning to his own body, he found his way back to life. This is something many people don't realize sometimes. To reconnect with others, we must first learn to reconnect with ourselves. And often healing begins with a single touch, simple, slow, and without judgment. Touch isn't always about sexuality. It can be a hand resting on your chest, a gentle stroke along your arm, or the loving presence you offer yourself while bathing, applying lotion, or lying down after a long day. These quiet moments send a powerful message to the brain. I am not alone. I am still here. And from that foundation, you can slowly open yourself again to the outside world. Take a new class. Play bingo with friends your age. Join a book club or volunteer at your local library. Each small act deepens your sense of connection, something every human being needs at every age. Isolation is a silent trap, but you don't have to stay in it forever, and you don't need someone to pull you out. You can begin with yourself with a simple touch and a deep gratitude that you are still alive, still feeling, still capable of loving, starting with you. Conclusion. Reconnecting with yourself, a journey that is never too late. You've just explored 7 powerful insights, wisdom that many older men wish they had learned much earlier in life. From the ways unconscious masturbation can dull sensitivity, to how ejaculation protects the prostate, from silent shame that leads to loneliness, to the mental and physical strength that mindful self-care can restore. Each insight is more than just information. It is a gentle reminder you still have the ability to change no matter your age. As we enter the years beyond 60, society often assumes that vitality, Desire and intimacy no longer matter. But that's simply not true. Your body is still alive. It still longs to be loved and cared for. And one of the most meaningful ways to care is to learn how to reconnect. Not only with others, but starting from within. Reconnection does not mean returning to who you were at 30. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything. Sometimes all it takes is a quiet afternoon, a conscious touch, or a kind glance at yourself in the mirror to awaken a part of you that is quietly waited. If there's one thing you can begin today, let it be the golden protocol. 10 minutes each day spent simply being present with your own body. No agenda, no pressure, no expectations. Just a gentle reminder to yourself that you are still here, still capable of feeling, still worthy of being cared for. You can begin right where you are, your familiar bedroom in the soft morning light, or in the quiet of the evening before sleep. Touch your shoulder, your chest, your hands, your belly, areas you may have ignored for years. And in that silence, let your body speak back to you. I'm still here. I still need you. From that small beginning, you may gently expand. Reconnect with an old friend, sign up for a gentle yoga class for seniors, or simply take a walk in the park to hear the birds sing and breathe in the fresh air. These small acts, when done with presence, can gradually lead you out of isolation and back into connection with the world and with yourself. You're also warmly invited to join our community, a space where older men come together to share their journeys, quiet victories, and challenges. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Light of Wise Elders, where you'll find not just knowledge but deep empathy and shared strength. Your age is not a barrier. It's a milestone, an invitation to live more slowly, more deeply, and more fully. Don't wait until your body speaks out from being neglected. Don't let shame keep you from touching that precious life still pulsing inside you. You deserve to feel connected to your body, your true emotions, and your most authentic self. Not for anyone else, but for you. Because that worth was never lost. You simply have to return to it and remember. And that journey, whether it begins today or tomorrow, is never too late.